few updates I want to give you. The WPSLF program, that's the money that's distributed by regional planning for replacement systems. I know many of you have asked where that stands right now, and it's probably very soon when they'll be bidding that. It's been a long process this year simply because there's been so many. I believe there's upwards of 20 on that list this year, and soil testing and so forth has really drawn that process out. So very shortly you should see a bid proposal come out to you if you are interested in that, and there's about 20 on that list. There's about $160,000 available in that pot. Actually, probably some additional, because what I've understood is that there was some money left over. They threw that into the 160 that Stark County received, and that's why we're doing so many, because there was a large pot of money to work with, so that's a good thing. However, my understanding is for next year that probably will disappear. So this is probably the last year we'll see that, unless something changes at the state government level where they see fit to put those funds back out. So keep that in mind. Secondly, I just want to make a comment to those of you who do any hauling in here. The Stark County Health Department, in cooperation with the Stark County Sanitary Engineer, have developed fog, fats, oils, and grease regulations. It's actually the regulation of the Stark County Sanitary Engineer, but we're helping them, facilitating that to happen because we have food inspectors already out in the restaurants. Fog is from restaurants, if you didn't know that previously. And it's really geared toward the Stark County sewer facilities and making sure that fats, oils, and grease is not going into the sanitary sewers. They have spent upwards of $6 million replacing, repairing deteriorated sewer pipes, and it's getting very costly. So they say, it's time to get the stuff out of the sewer. Many grease interceptors are poorly maintained, and that's why that stuff's getting out there. So they have developed the rules. We're going to be doing some education and enforcement along those lines. And anyone who is a hauler in here, that will have some effect on you. There is a manifest requirement that you follow where it was originated, where you disposed of it, and so forth. So there will be a piece for you if you're a hauler, but that should be shortly coming. If you're a hauler, you've probably already been made aware that the City of Canton wastewater treatment plant, as of next year, December of next year, is no longer going to receive any grease. So right at the time we're developing this rule, the City of Canton says no more grease. Well, fortunately, there are some other options out there. As of December of next year, when they cut everybody off, there is still the sanitary landfill the grease can be taken to, and we have a local company here who has been working on separating fog product from the wastewater, and he, as of now and in the future, will be receiving that waste. If you want to contact them, we have contact information for that individual. So you can take it there. My understanding is that his price is actually very competitive, if not better, than what the City of Canton is currently charging. So if you need that information, we can get that to you also if you're hauling grease waste.
What's the outcome of the operation generally? Are they running good, or?
We haven't had
that many come across yet. I mean, we've had a couple, but nothing.
The only issue that I'm seeing on them, Fred, is if the risers are taking on water, the system will take on water, and I've seen some systems take on it, almost the daily design flow of surface water. So it's really important when you put your tanks in, that your risers are sealed really well, and then your grade around your tanks are such that if the property owner puts his footer water out there, it's not going to go right into your tank.
You're saying the tanks themselves are taking on surface water?
I've seen electrical, when the guys run a piece of pipe and they run their electrical wires through pipe through a lift station. When they didn't seal it with some silicone caulk or some foam or something like that, you'll see a pencil-sized flow coming into the lift station of clean water, and all it is surface water. So you want to make sure that your grade is good. You've got everything sealed. That's
Good
really-
water only.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then I have been asking the guys to ask the property owners, especially on a new home construction or a new building, no paint, because we run into that issue. They will plug the sand in your mound, and we'll be back out there trying to figure out how to flush all that paint out. So have them take the paint brushes, wash the paintbrush out, put it on the ground. Don't put it in your expensive mound.
Awesome, thank you.
What about that tool? You guys selling that tool? Or do you-
Yeah, I'd love to sell it to you. This
These are what we used to.
yeah, this is what was donated to us. This real nice one. This is what you could probably make yourself. This is just a piece of PEX pipe. It's translucent, of course, and then we just put some fittings and some bushings at the end of it and a hose clamp. It does the same thing, not quite as fancy.
Drop a dye will help you with seeing the
Yeah, a
water.
little bit of
now.
dye in there might help you out a little bit. Seeing it in this, since it's not quite as clear. Another thing I wanted to, this is a terrible drawing here, but I wanted to make mention for those of you who do these inspections that you may see a series of observation ports on the mound, and I want to help you to understand what the difference is. There are two different ways installers will set these up. One way is they'll have the turnips that were mentioned in the video there will be one observation port or inspection port for that to be accessed. So you'll see this sometimes. And then elsewhere on the mound you'll see 4-inch pipes sticking up. And those are to observe the ponding level at the gravel-sand interface. So you pop that and what you'll see is holes drilled in there probably in the side of that pipe, and you'll be able to access what ponding levels are inside of that mound. That's certainly important to record, just as much as you would record ponding levels inside of a leach trench. The second way this is accomplished is some installers will actually make this a 2-in-1 deal, which is fine. And they'll actually eliminate these and use this turn-up access as an observation well as also. So you may only see one of these and not two. Another thing I want to mention about the mound is probably majority of mounds, if this is coming from the force main or from the lift tank, majority of mounds are set up with a single T inside of there feeding both ends. So this would be the lateral that's spraying that water inside of there, and then the turn up at each end. That's the most common setup. The one we just saw in the example here was actually set up differently. It was set up like this. So this is your force main. This is called your manifold. And then here are your laterals here with your turnups at each end. The reason they're done differently is because there's a lot of math that goes into figuring out how to equally distribute that effluent across the length of the mound. When you design a mound, you want no more than 10% difference in flow rate from the center to the end. In this example, this was greater than 10%. So the designer decided to do this to cut that down to no more than 10%. So as you're inspecting these mounds, you got to keep an eye on what this is. Is it one of these or one of these? And when you inspect it, you want to make sure that you put those squirt tubes on each of these points. Okay? And sometimes these two center ones are in a common box so that you can access both at the same time. Is there any questions about?
Is there a zone that the squirt height will be in, or who do you get hold of?
Yeah, that's us.
For the baseline.
When you request records from us, you want to make sure that that's on there, and if it's not, give us a call or can't be quite honest, the clerks don't know what they're looking at. They're just sending you records. So if you don't see it written on there, call back, because when that mound was inspected, we had to note that, what the baseline was.
Do they vary that much between mound to mound?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they do. And they're typically designed, 3.5 to 4 feet, but dependent upon what that, sometimes the pumps are oversized and they'll put out more. Sometimes they put ball valves in there and they'll put out less. So it does vary quite a bit. The average is about 3 to 4 feet, 3.5 feet. And we are watching, like in the example we saw there was quite a difference from the beginning.
More than 10%.
Yeah, from beginning when it started till then, when that mound was inspected. That indicates maybe something's going on. Probably the likely thing is those holes have already gotten some plugging going on. Whenever you see a higher pressure at the end, the likely problem is plugging in some of those orifices. If you see a much less pressure, perhaps there's a leak in the force main or something else is going on. So those, when you report that back to us, it tells us we need to figure out why that thing has changed since its initial startup.
We recommend that back to a service provider for it.
You can say it needs, if it's drastic, it needs further evaluation. We'll take it from there. We'll decide how drastic it is. Is there any other questions on the mound inspection? Okay.
Todd, just a comment about the, when they do the install on that, they need to be flushing the plastic out of those lines before we come. So they put some, all the shavings from them drilling the holes in that pipe so that all of that is cleared out when we come to do the inspection.
I was going to mention this later on, but I might as well mention it now since we're on the topic. There's a caveat I want the inspectors, well actually everybody to understand about these mounds, and we need to get it corrected. Okay, so we have a lift tank, okay, and you're coming off, going up to the mound, and a float, and let's just say this is a timer up here. Almost all mounds, maybe there's a few exceptions, almost all mounds in this county are time controlled. The LPP pressure system inside of those are controlled by a timer. And the code says that we have to do doses, the frequency has to be greater than every 4 hours. 4 hours or greater. It can't be like 2 hours or 3 hours. It has to be 4 hours or greater. Scientists said that if you time control it so you're not heavily dosing it dose after dose, it's best for the mound, it's best for the long-term operation of the system. So that's where time dosing comes in. Now what can happen is, and these timers some operate different than others, but what will happen is, let's say that this is the water level that is required to have a full dose in the mound. Those floats are set so that there is at least a full dose inside the mound to do a dose. So let's say that it gets to its on position, but the timer is still counting. Okay, so let's say the float rises a little higher. He said, let's say that that's where it actually kicks on at. Okay, so it kicks on, runs its 2 or 3 minute cycle, and this float then drops down, let's say, to this position here. If anybody's done any pump work, you know that that float isn't off yet, right? It hasn't dropped clear to the off position yet. So this float, after it started its cycle, dropped to here, midway down. And let's say that that household doesn't run any more water, and it stays there. The timer count, it's looking, 4 hour interval comes up again, and it sees that float is on, but it doesn't have the full dose. You see where the flaw's at? It can do short doses, so what's going to happen? This is going to dose at this level, drop down to its off position, and turn the whole thing off prior to the full dose cycle running. Why do we care? Because mounds and LPP systems are designed to have a particular volume of dose to go up to them, which is 5 times the internal volume of that piping I showed you. So that's a problem. You're going to have sometimes it's going to run a short dose into the mound or the LPP system. Why is that also a problem? Because that event counter that you took the numbers off of, it's counting all those short doses. So when I come out there and say, oh, you're using too much water, is that really true? You don't know necessarily. So as of very shortly here, I've talked with several of the distributors, some of which are in the room here, and we got to eliminate this problem. And it really boils down to controls. Their controls need to be modified or floats need to be added. There's various ways that it can be changed.